He had already been betrayed. The kiss had been given. The soldiers had come, and every disciple had fled into the night. Now the most powerful religious council in the ancient world had assembled in secret, in the middle of the night, breaking their own laws, to condemn the one man they could not silence any other way. They brought false witnesses. The testimonies collapsed, so the high priest stood up and asked the question directly.
Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?
What Jesus said next stopped the entire room. This is the true story of the night that changed all of history. A night of illegal trials, a cowardly governor, a crown of thorns, and a cross carried through the streets of Jerusalem to a hill called the Place of the Skull. You will watch a man condemned for telling the truth. You will see a king mocked, flogged, and crucified between two criminals. And in the final moments, when the sky goes dark and the earth shakes, you will understand why this single day sits at the center of everything Christians have believed for 2,000 years. Stay with us until the end, because the last scene will show you something that no army, no tomb, and no stone could stop. If these stories speak to you, please subscribe to ARC Films. It means the world to us. Now, let's begin. 1 week earlier, he had ridden into Jerusalem to the sound of thousands calling his name. He had spent the week teaching in the temple, eating with his disciples, and saying things they would only understand later. On Thursday evening, he'd broken bread with them, told them one would betray him, warned another he would deny him 3 times before morning, and then led them in a hymn at the close of the Passover meal. Now it was Thursday night. The hymn had barely faded, and somewhere in the city, a man with 30 pieces of silver was already moving. Jesus led his disciples out of Jerusalem, across the Kidron Valley, and into a garden called Gethsemane on the slope of the Mount of Olives. He left 8 of the disciples and took Peter, James, and John deeper into the garden. Then he said something that stopped all 3 of them.
My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me.
He walked a little further on alone, fell with his face to the ground, and prayed,
Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done.
The cup was a biblical image for suffering and judgment. He was not asking to avoid difficulty. He was asking with full knowledge of what was coming. Whether there was another way, there was not. And he rose from that ground and walked toward it anyway. Luke records that an angel appeared from heaven and strengthened him. God did not remove the cup, but he did not leave his son alone in that garden either. Strengthened, Jesus pressed deeper into the prayer. Luke records that in that anguish, his sweat fell to the ground like drops of blood. He returned to find Peter, James, and John asleep. He woke Peter.
Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Matthew records that Jesus went back and prayed a second time, then a third, each time returning to find the disciples sleeping. 3 times he brought the same request before God. When he rose from the ground the third time, the prayer was finished. He woke the disciples.
Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.
He had been on the ground asking if there was another way. Now he was on his feet walking toward what was coming. While Jesus was still speaking, torches appeared through the trees. Judas was leading a large crowd sent by the chief priests and elders, armed with swords and clubs. He had given them a signal beforehand. In that darkness, with a crowd of men, they needed a way to identify which person to seize. Judas had told them, "The one I greet with a kiss is the man." In that culture, a kiss on the cheek was a standard greeting between a disciple and his rabbi. He walked straight up to Jesus.
Rabbi.
He kissed him. Jesus looked at him.
Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?
The crowd moved forward to seize Jesus. In the chaos, Peter drew his sword and swung it at the high priest's servant, a man named Malchus, cutting off his right ear. Jesus stopped him immediately.
Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?
He reached out and touched Malchus's ear and healed him. It was the last miracle before his arrest. The man who had come to take him away was healed by the hands being bound. Jesus then turned to the crowd.
Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs?
Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me.
But this is your hour, and the power of darkness.
Every disciple turned and fled into the night. Jesus stood alone among his captors, exactly as he had known he would. They led Jesus through the gates of the high priest's house. Peter had followed at a distance through the darkened streets and slipped inside behind the crowd. In the courtyard, a charcoal fire burned against the night cold. He sat down among the servants and guards and waited. A servant girl studied his face in the firelight.
This man was with him.
Woman, I do not know him.
He moved away toward the gateway. A little later, someone else looked at him.
You also are one of them.
Man, I am not.
An hour passed. The fire crackled. The guards talked. Then a relative of Malchus, the man whose ear Peter had cut off in the garden, looked at him carefully. He had been there. He had seen Peter's face.
Certainly this man was with him. He is a Galilean, his accent gives him away.
Man, I do not know what you are saying.
While he was still speaking, a rooster crowed. At that moment, Jesus was being led across the courtyard. He turned and looked straight at Peter. Peter remembered the words from the table. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." He went outside and wept bitterly by fire, in a courtyard, before a servant girl and 2 bystanders. Inside the house, the trial was already underway. The Sanhedrin had assembled in the middle of the night, which was itself illegal. Jewish law required capital cases to be heard during daylight hours, with a full day between verdict and any sentence. The men who enforced the law had suspended it. Witnesses were brought in, but their accounts contradicted each other. Under Jewish law, a conviction required at least 2 witnesses whose testimony agreed. Finally, 2 came forward.
This fellow saying, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.
Even that testimony did not fully align between the 2 men. The case was still collapsing. Caiaphas stood and faced Jesus directly.
Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?
Jesus had stayed silent through all the false testimony. Now he answered,
I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven.
2 things in that answer stopped the room. Claiming to be the Messiah was not itself blasphemy. Many had made that claim. What crossed the line was the combination of what followed: sitting at the right hand of God and coming on the clouds of heaven. The second image came directly from Daniel 7:13. Every priest and scribe in that room knew the text. Jesus was not simply claiming to be Israel's king. He was placing himself in the position Scripture reserved for God alone. Under Jewish law, that was blasphemy, punishable by death. Jesus had said it plainly, in front of the entire council, with no ambiguity. Caiaphas tore his robes. The high priest was actually forbidden by Mosaic law from tearing his garments under normal circumstances. That he did so anyway showed how completely the proceedings had abandoned the law they claimed to uphold.
He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? You have now heard the blasphemy. What do you think?
He is worthy of death.
Then the guards took over. They spat on him, blindfolded him, and struck him across the face.
Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who hit you?
At dawn, the chief priests held a brief, formal session to ratify the night verdict. Then they bound Jesus and handed him over to Pilate, the Roman governor. They brought Jesus from Caiaphas's house to the Praetorium, the headquarters of Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea. The religious leaders stayed outside in the street. Pilate came out to meet them, heard the accusation, and took Jesus inside to question him privately.
Are you the king of the Jews?
You have said so.
Pilate went back out and told the crowd he found no basis for a charge against Jesus. While he was still on the judge's seat, a message arrived from his wife.
Have nothing to do with that innocent man. I had a dream about him last night and it troubled me greatly.
She was warning her husband clearly. Jesus was innocent and she knew it. Pilate remembered the Passover custom. Each year the governor released one prisoner chosen by the crowd. He offered them Jesus. The crowd demanded Barabbas. Barabbas was a known insurrectionist who had committed murder during an uprising.
What shall I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?
Crucify him!
Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify!
Why? What has he done wrong?
The crowd only shouted louder. Pilate took water and washed his hands publicly in front of them all.
I am innocent of this man's blood. It is your responsibility.
It was a gesture. Responsibility cannot be washed off with water. Pilate knew exactly what he was doing. He released Barabbas and handed Jesus over to his soldiers. Elsewhere in the city, Judas had returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests, declared he had betrayed innocent blood and gone out and hanged himself. The priests used the money to buy a potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. Matthew records that this fulfilled a prophecy from Scripture. The soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium courtyard where the entire battalion had gathered. They stripped him and tied him to a post. The Roman flagellum was not an ordinary whip. It was a leather strap embedded with pieces of bone and metal, designed to tear through skin and muscle. It was used to bring a condemned man to the edge of death before crucifixion, so he would die faster on the cross. When it was over, Jesus was barely standing. Then the mockery began. They threw a scarlet robe over his torn shoulders. They twisted together a crown of thorns and pressed it onto his head. They put a staff in his right hand, knelt before him and called out,
"Hail, King of the Jews!"
They spat on him, took the staff, and struck him repeatedly on the head, driving the thorns deeper. When they finished, they stripped off the robe, put his own clothes back on him, and handed him the cross.
He was despised, rejected by men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. We hid our faces, counted him nothing, yet he was wounded for all we have done. The punishment that brings us peace was laid on him alone. By his wounds we are healed. By his wounds we are healed. The Lord has laid on him the sin of us all.
Jesus turned to the women who had followed him, weeping through the streets.
Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. For if people do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?
2 other men were being led out alongside him to be crucified. They crucified him there, between 2 criminals, one on his right and one on his left. The first words Jesus spoke from the cross were not a cry of pain. He looked at the soldiers driving the nails, at the crowd below, at the religious leaders who had engineered the trial.
Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
He was not asking forgiveness for himself. He was interceding for the people killing him. Pilate had a wooden board prepared and fastened to the cross directly above Jesus' head. The board read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews," written in 3 languages, Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests objected and asked Pilate to change the wording. He refused.
What I have written, I have written.
The soldiers divided his garments among themselves and cast lots to decide who would keep his tunic. Psalm 22, written by King David 1,000 years before this moment, had described this exact scene. The soldiers gambling at the foot of the cross were fulfilling it without knowing it. The crowds mocked him. The religious leaders mocked him. One of the criminals crucified beside him hurled insults. The other criminal turned on the first.
Don't you fear God? We are getting what we deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
He asked only to be remembered. Jesus answered him,
Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Then Jesus looked down and saw his mother Mary standing at the foot of the cross beside John, the disciple he loved. In the middle of his own suffering, he made sure she would be cared for.
Woman, here is your son. Then to John, here is your mother.
From that moment, John took her into his own home. At noon, the sky went dark. Matthew, Mark, and Luke record that darkness covered the entire land for 3 hours. Passover falls on a full moon, making a solar eclipse impossible. The Gospel writers offer no explanation. They simply record what happened, and the crowd fell silent beneath it. Then at 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice,
My God, why have you forsaken me?
These were the opening words of Psalm 22, a text the crowd would have recognized immediately. Jesus was not speaking in confusion. He was pointing to Scripture, telling everyone within earshot exactly what this moment meant. Some in the crowd misunderstood and thought he was calling for Elijah. Then Jesus spoke again.
I am thirsty.
One of the soldiers soaked a sponge in wine vinegar, put it on a hyssop stalk, and lifted it to his lips. Psalm 69 had written this moment 1,000 years before it happened. Then came his final words.
It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit.
He bowed his head and gave up his spirit. The Gospels do not say his spirit left him. They say he gave it up. To the end, this was his choice. The moment Jesus died, 3 things happened simultaneously. First, in Jerusalem stood the temple, the most sacred building in the Jewish world and the center of all Jewish worship. At its heart was a chamber called the Holy of Holies, believed to be the dwelling place of God himself. It was sealed off from ordinary people by an enormous curtain. According to ancient historical accounts, that veil stood as tall as a 6-story building and was extraordinarily thick. Only the high priest could pass through it, and only once a year. At the moment Jesus died, the veil tore in two from the ceiling downward. The barrier between God and humanity had been removed when Jesus died. Second, at the same moment, the ground shook. An earthquake split rocks open. Third, tombs outside Jerusalem cracked open. Matthew records that after the resurrection, the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised and appeared to people in the city. The Roman centurion, who had been standing at the foot of the cross, watching all of it since 9 that morning, saw what happened and responded with the only words that fit.
Surely this man was the Son of God.
The man condemned for blasphemy, for claiming to be the Son of God, was declared exactly that by a Roman soldier who had spent the day executing him. At a distance, a group of women watched. They had followed Jesus from Galilee and had been with him through his ministry. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. they had not fled like the disciples. They were still there. It was late Friday afternoon. Jewish law required burial before sunset, and the Sabbath was approaching. Someone had to act quickly. A man named Joseph stepped forward. He was from the town of Arimathea and was a member of the Sanhedrin, but Luke records that he had not agreed with their decision. He had been a secret disciple, and now, with Jesus dead, he went to Pilate and asked for the body. Pilate confirmed that Jesus was already dead and released the body to him. Joseph was not alone. Nicodemus came with him, the same man who had visited Jesus in secret at night years earlier and asked him about being born again. He brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, weighing about 75 pounds. Together, they took the body down from the cross, wrapped it in linen cloths with the spices according to Jewish burial custom, and placed it in a new tomb cut from rock in a garden near the Crucifixion site. No one had ever been buried there before. The women who had watched from a distance followed and saw exactly where the body was laid. They noted the tomb and went home to prepare more spices, planning to return after the Sabbath. The following morning, the religious leaders went to Pilate.
Sir, we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, "After 3 days I will rise again." Give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day, or his disciples may steal the body and tell the people he has been raised from the dead.
Pilate ordered it secured. A stone was rolled across the entrance. A seal was placed on it. Guards were posted. The garden was quiet. The city was quiet. The stone sat in place. The guards stood watch, and everything looked exactly like an ending. And so ends the story of a man who was innocent, condemned by those who knew it, and crucified by a world that could not bear what he was saying. From Jesus before Pilate, we learn what it looks like to stop needing the world's approval. Pilate declared Jesus innocent 3 times, then handed him over anyway. There will be people in your life who know you are right and will still choose the easier path. Jesus did not argue. He did not perform for the crowd. He had already settled who he was before he walked into that courtroom. That settledness, that freedom from needing to be validated, is one of the rarest and most powerful things a human being can carry. From the women who stayed, we learn that the most important things you will ever do will probably happen without an audience. They stayed because it was right, not because anyone was watching. If you have ever been faithful in private, shown up when everyone else left, or done the right thing in silence, that is exactly what this looked like. God's record and the world's record are not the same document. What the crowd misses, he does not. From Pilate, we learn what it costs to silence your conscience. He had the power, the evidence, and a warning from his own wife. The crowd was louder than his conviction in that moment. He washed his hands as if water could undo a decision. It cannot. Pilate's tragedy is not that he was weak. It is that he knew exactly what he was doing. History did not forget. If this story moved you, subscribe to ARC Film. It means the world to us. Tell us in the comments, which Bible story should we cover next?